The murder of George Floyd and the repercussions amidst the coronavirus pandemic is calling for a new normal within higher education. Perhaps the educational shift will be the greatest in the preparation and training of future police officers. 6 Black educators shared their perspectives during Thursday's webinar focusing on the effects of police brutality and racism on Black students and professionals in education. Kenneth Reed, Director of African American and Multicultural Affairs at Minnesota State University Mankato, hosted the webinar that featured Dr. Henry Morris, Vice President of Diversity and Inclusion at Minnesota State Mankato, Dr. Jeffrey Brown, Assistant Professor for the School Psychology Doctoral Program at Minnesota State Mankato, Bruce King, Assistant to the President for Institutional Diversity at St. Olaf College in Northfield, Shannon Tenner, Assistant Principal at Washburn High School in Minneapolis, and Dr. Samuel Bydom, Deputy Superintendent at the San Antonio Preparatory Community School in San Antonio, Texas. Reed said Thursday's dialogue was part of a needed systemic change that starts with education.
It's about doing something. And it's not about doing something when something happens. It's about doing something continuously, keeping the momentum and going forward. And we have some leverage to create that change. I don't want to see a man calling out for his mother on the ground. I don't want to see a Miss Taylor. I don't want to see a Mr. Aubrey. I don't want to see a Mr. Castile again, or Mr. Clark, Miss Bland. So I continue to call names. Work needs to be done. Mr. Rice, young Mr. Rice. Mr. Gardner, Mr. Brown, and Mr. Martin. But what I need you to do is understand you have a duty in your role as an educator to create change. Take advantage of that duty.
Morris said persons of color seek change among law enforcement practices that span decades and cross all social and economic demographics.
I'm 64 years old now, so I've been through this environment for a long time. My wife and I both earn over 6 figures each. I have many letters after my name. My wife has letters after her name. Obviously, we would be considered very successful. But we know that success could be wiped out in a minute because of the wrong interaction with police. But at the end of the day, when you drive home and a cop pulls up behind you, you know that you still get that little pit in your stomach. Am I going to get pulled over, and will something go wrong in that interaction? And because you're angry and frustrated, something could go wrong.
Just as Minnesota became the focal point for demonstrations, Morris said Minnesota education systems can be a focal point for change.
And this is not a passive role. I think it's a very active role. I don't know at a lot of institutions, but in Minnesota, 80% of the police in Minnesota are trained by Men's State institutions. And the 4 cops that were involved in the Mr. Floyd's murder were graduates of one of our institutions. One of the things we're doing at Minnesota State Mankato, and I would ask others to do it, is to begin to look at our criminal justice programs. Are we doing all we can to have the cops who graduate from our programs, understand what it means to be policing in a multicultural, diverse community? If it isn't, then we need to talk about how we can do it different. That also goes to those programs in corrections. And I would also say our responsibility for training the teachers in K through 12. Are they leaving our universities and colleges with the skill set to have the skills to help the people and to be responsible in a multicultural environment? And I think right now, in many cases, we're not.
The challenge for such systemic change needs to start at the elementary school level, King said.
You are raising your 6-year-old son or 7-year-old daughter, and they say, I want to be a police officer. How do they, learn about the humanity that is called for when moving into these kinds of things?
King, who currently shelters in place in his hometown of Chicago, added that Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot is introducing change in law enforcement training that includes exposure to various perspectives and viewpoints.
Typically, it's other police officers who are teaching police officers. And she's proposing here in Chicago that, we bring citizens, we bring people from community, we bring activists, we bring educators, we bring a variety of different people into the police academy to teach and help train officers about what it means to be a law enforcement official. And already that's gotten a lot of pushback by the police union and some people from the police academy.
Bynum said another law enforcement change should look at police residing within their patrolling neighborhoods.
For most superintendents, they have to reside in the district in which they serve. What's the requirement for law enforcement to be an actual resident of the communities that they police? And so when I have that disconnection of engagement, I don't see them as my neighbor. I don't see necessarily those individuals as people I might go to church with or people that I might break bread with. I see it as a job in which policing is taking place. And I can devalue, demonize, and dehumanize those residents or those Black folks because I'm disconnected.
Bynum said there is no fast remedy to evolving racism.
A quick answer or quick fix, because any disease and I think of racism as a rampant disease, evolves if it is that you don't deal with the root problem. So I can give you a quick fix and tell you what to do, but understanding that racism and how it looks now looks very different in some ways than it looked in 1950. It has evolved. And as it evolves, we have to be thinking or being extremely thoughtful in the ways that we react, interact, and ameliorate and dismantle systems of racism.
Brown said racial stress continues to advance medical conditions often found among Black communities.
Black folks in American society constantly experience either severe or chronic racial stress. And that's actually associated with a range of physiological and psychological health problems. So diabetes, cancer, depression, anxiety, suicide. So it's literally killing us. It's literally killing us in our community when we have to witness these acts or experience these acts ourselves.
Reed posed the question of how society can look upon Black men when they are frequently targeted at an early age.
At the young age of being in kindergarten, first, second grade, is likely to be more likely to be suspended 2 to 3 times at a higher rate. 2 to 3 times at a higher rate will be suspended, And that's, for me, it's like, okay, well, we know why they're underperforming. The reason is because we're trying to target them very early on and we're looking at them to do something wrong, but they're not even given a chance. So you can have your Black student in the classroom who's doing the exact same thing as a white student, but the teacher is looking for them to and expecting them to do something.
Tenner said racial stress impacted by racism and police brutality affects Black students in different ways.
On a student level, I believe that some students, if they're in the thick of what's going on a daily basis, where they're seeing police brutality often, I think they've gotten to a point where they're desensitized. It begins to alter their trust of the dominant culture, would be teachers, those who present or deem themselves as being white. I think if students are suffering from mental health or depression, it could exacerbate that. At the same time, to the point where they feel like they've lost hope or faith. But then again, for other students, you may see an increase in resilience.
By the time those Black students reach college, they are more worldly, King added.
We see a lot of students and students of color, and especially Black students, who come to campus and they're already older, because they've grown up faster. They have more responsibilities. They have seen more. And how do we adapt this place and their home for the next 4 years to meet those very unique needs that they bring?
King said at the college level, it starts by allowing male Black students to unpack their emotions and perspectives.
And I think that when we talk about what Black men bring with them and the sense of safety, it has to go beyond just racial. I mean, Black, LGBTQ men and trans women, hoping to provide a space for them on the campus where we can interrupt and give space for them to breathe.
It may also include initiating uncomfortable conversations.
And especially in Minnesota, but across the country, these are very difficult conversations to have because no one wants to be racist. No one wants to talk about race. No one wants to talk about disparity. We want to see everyone as the same, but we don't. And, you talk to faculty who say, oh, I ask about, Tyrone Jones in your class. And, oh, they're doing really well. I anticipate that they're going to get a C at the end of the semester.
Morris said a continuing endeavor must be the hiring of persons of color in faculty and administrative positions.
Yeah, it's paramount. It is the ability to see that you can become something. That I can become a president of a university. I can become a vice president. I can become a teacher. I may not have had all those role models growing up. But yeah, I went to this institution and I had teachers that looked like me. There were administrators that looked like me. When I was growing up, a lot of the only people I saw in the schools were the janitors.
The process also needs white allies who know when to listen and when to speak up.
Because many times we all know people want to come in and fix it for us. We need to help. You need to empower people to fix their own problems. Those are the ones that are owned and the ones that have the best opportunity to be successful. Is when people feel that they are part of their own solution rather than something being imposed on them. To me, allies need to be able to speak up and say this is wrong. And say it whether with their strange uncle at Thanksgiving or in a teacher's cafeteria or in the student union or in a class. To be able to make that student not have to be the only voice on the experience.
The new normal created by the coronavirus may provide the opportunity for education to integrate systemic change regarding racism, King said.
The whole COVID thing, uprooted our, model of residential education. And I think that we'll never be able to go back just to thinking that there's one way of doing things or this is the way that works best for doing things. And I would hope that what we've learned from COVID, what we've all witnessed with George Floyd, the murder of George Floyd, will shake up curriculum. So I really hope we take this opportunity of great change and transformation to really try and move forward and not try to go right back to the way we used to do it. But it really does mean curricular change across the curriculum.